Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of Mind Chimes. I'm glad to be back online. I had a little problem with my wireless and now it's back up and running really well, so I'm excited. Hats off to my tech assistant, Kia, who was nice enough to walk me through some of the snafus and with wireless connection. But anyway, so let's get on with the business at hand. So I know that like a lot of people are politically exhausted. But beneath this fatigue, something volatile is forming. I think that, we're in the middle of arguing, what happened when in fact we need to pay attention because we're ready to fall into a constitutional crisis where Donny Boy ends up taking another term, literally taking another term. So pay attention. And remember, history, it's not like it collapses all at once. You can hear the boards creaking. You can hear the ground shifting. Unfortunately, sometimes we just don't know. But anyway, some of the more progressive people in the Democratic Party are really upset with this so-called autopsy, which kind of is going to get the head of the DNC relieved of his position. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ro Khanna, they're really upset over the Democratic Party's 2024 autopsy, so-called autopsy, as if we needed to know the details. But yeah, the mismanagement was, just insane through the whole campaign. And now, the autopsy fails to mention, anything about Gaza, about what was going on in Israel and what was going on in Gaza. So, all the young voters, at the time were highly aware, and the progressive voters were really aware of the genocide that is taking place in Palestine, and that is at one point was an area in the Middle East, and a large area, in fact, in case you want to look back pre-Balfour history books. I think the Dems probably mistook like the donor comfort for voter enthusiasm. I mean, they were making the money, they were pulling the money in. Everybody seemed to think, again, that money would buy the election. But the progressives and the young people in particular wanted more. And they wanted answers for Gaza. They wanted answers for America's involvement with Israel and the bombing of Israel and the bombing of Gaza. So, those are the little things that would have been in the autopsy but weren't. So, it's becoming more and more like it's not a left-right split. It's a top-to-bottom split. And I don't know if the Dems actually can recognize this. It's crazy. I mean, it's like they're trying to run a fire department while pretending the smoke alarm is divisive. You just can't, you have to pay attention to what's going on in the population. You can't be putting donors first. And this is why you see so many old folks in the Democratic Party hanging on for dear life, because actually they've sold out so many times that they have the pockets of massive donations from these corporations and these donors who play both sides of the fence. They're not silly. I mean, God forbid they don't hedge their bets in an election. And all of these things were missing in the autopsy. So the DNC again is doing what a for-profit corporation would do, which is namby-pamby. I can't stick my neck out, so this is what happens. So let's maybe change leadership with the DNC. That might be a good thing. So next up, I would tell you that the courts are becoming the last line of defense. Federal courts are blocking major Trump administration policies, asylum restrictions, deportation practices, and tariff powers. All of these things have been blocked, which is pretty great. It seems to be acting as a final stop or a break on executive powers. And the conservatives and the MAGA, they like their activist courts. They hated them when they weren't, dominated by these Christian sovereigns. But now that the Supreme Court is loaded with Christian sovereigns, it's okay for them to be activists. Just ask a MAGA. When you can see that when Trump's executive orders are put before legitimate legal processes, they collapse. They're not real, and they serve him well to taco his way through just about everything. But the only thing that's it looks like the only thing that's holding the Constitution together right now is the rule of law in the lower federal courts, and it seems now it's behaving almost like some kind of emergency scaffolding before it collapses. I don't know. Let's talk a little bit about ICE, because you can't go an episode without ICE, and they're using the machinery of fear, and I would like to highly recommend The Winds of Barley as a film to see, because it really hits home if you watch it, because it's basically ICE, and it's set in Ireland in the 1920s, and it was, from my point of view, I thought it was censored, because it did win a Cannes film, great cinematography, and it's called The Winds of Barley. See it. I think it's available on Acorn, and probably you can find it anywhere out there on your whatever platform. But it's definitely all about ICE in Ireland in the 1930s. But so what's going on now if you look around, especially if you go to these hardware stores, and it's really kind of sad. If you go to Lowe's or Best Buy, mostly not Best Buy, but mostly Home Depot. Home Depot now has cameras, surveillance cameras, and all of this data, they're using facial recognition, and they're sending it off to ICE. And ICE is, basically violating these people's civil liberties. And, if you really want to find Hispanic people doing work, the best place to find them is at Home Depot buying material, or Lowe's buying material. So, this is really a violation of civil liberties. And we just can't let this happen. I mean, Big Brother is out there in full force now, and nobody's doing anything about it, which is okay. And it's, it's like capitalism merging with immigration enforcement, and it's just not the best thing, because ultimately, not only will immigrants be rounded up at Home Depot, your products will be priced based on your face individually, so you won't know the price, and all you do is walk in and they say, well, that guy's worth $2.5 million, so we can charge him more. And this person, so it's all based on facial recognition, your wallet. Sounds conspiratorial, but I wouldn't put anything past the capitalist immigration enforcement system. And what's really crazy is these tech companies are now like running politics. You got to face facts. And, there's an overlap between AI lobbying and national security rhetoric. Everybody's worried about, what about AI? What about AI? But I don't know. Those are the big issues of the day. Hopefully you could follow me along. I came in, and I've been having problems, with my internet here, and it's kind of weird. But anyway, Never mind that, but the progressive energy outside the Democratic establishment. Now, this is a story that's not being reported by mainstream media because mainstream media is only interested in funders, big wallets, big whales funding the ads for the Democratic Party. But labor's starting to organize. Their May Day strikes and discussions, abortion rights mobilization. They're trying to get the youth dissatisfaction and putting it all together in a formal progressive group. Now, I love labor unions, but I've always had a problem with them because they always balk on universal health care. Because when union guys are paying their dues, they like to say, well, I have really good health care. And the unions know that in exchange for those dues, they can negotiate really good health care. But what about everybody else? And that's the big bone I have to pick with unions. Just because you have great health care, no one else does. So why don't you just kind of, step up, push for universal health care for young people, push for removing college debt for young people, and become more of a collective union for the people. I know the Teamsters, I know the United Steelworkers, I know SEIU. Great for their groups. That's 10% of the population. Bad news. It's not enough to get them elected. So they've got to go out and they've got to take this May Day program, I believe it's 2028 they're calling it, and they've really got to open up their doors. And like I say, I've got my U.S. Open here for the unions. You can open things up. Open. Be open. Don't close your shop. So, the progressive energy is really alive and it's moving fast. And this is all on senior man Bernie Sanders, who's been carrying the torch his whole entire life. And what's not to like about Bernie? Jesus, what a man, what a person, what a hero to the people. Hopefully, the future of American left may not arrive wearing a donkey pin. It might show up as a third party, and as much as that would be a disaster for everyone involved, it can't get worse. It cannot get any worse right now than it is. I mean, we will end up throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and that's probably okay because what do we have to lose? It's not much. So let's do some talk here real quick about the mood of the country. One of the things, there's a major heat wave going on across Europe. I don't know if you guys follow anything outside of the United States media, but you're not allowed to, so it's understandable. You're not allowed to know, even in map form. You're not allowed to see where there are other countries outside the U.S. When you watch the mainstream media, they rarely show a globe. They'll show a map and a section of the map, and you can't really get a perspective on where Europe is in relationship to Africa, in relationship to China. They don't start with wide views. They kind of channel your thoughts like, well, I know what Great Britain looks like. I know what Italy looks like. But you don't get a perspective on how these countries actually line up. And this heat wave in Europe is just catastrophic. They're breaking records one after another. So, climate change and the anxiety around climate change is rising. And the other big thing that's going on real quick is AI. The money with AI is flooding the elections. And if you look into the independents and you look into most voters, not just the swing voters, most voters now are at a complete distrust of both parties. And that's because the price of gasoline, economic security, it's replacing ideology right now. People, regardless of the side that you're on, when you're paying, $6, $7 for a gallon of gas, and you're taking payday loans to get food, your politics kind of go by the wayside, and you get kicked into survival mode, which is not like the best thing. And yeah, they're no longer, people are turning in their citizenship cards and trading them for survivor cards. And it's Game of Thrones. It's one of those kind of things. It's all, just bullshit for the worker and for the average American. It's all being stolen now, and much to the glee of mainstream American media. Now, I'm just gonna, wrap up here with this. It's encouraging to hear listeners just resist the numbness. A lot of people I talk to, they're numb, but they are resisting. And, it basically comes down to, is the Democratic Party reformable, or merely will it have to be replaced? And I'm hoping that it's reformable. I'm hoping. I mean, I attended the Democratic National Convention in 2016, and Bernie had made giant inroads, and they put his delegates behind the stage. You couldn't even see them. It was really terrible. And I also attended the Republican National Convention that year, also as a member of the journalism. And we went there. We covered both conventions, and the Republicans put on quite a show. There was water. There were kiosks. It was a real event. It was properly run. And the Democrats were, slipshod, pushing Bernie behind the stage. There was no water available. It was the hottest day in Philadelphia that I could ever remember. And so the media was left to fend for itself, especially independent media, which I was part of and invited into, and they just kind of shrugged everybody off. So I went over and talked to the New York Times reporters, and they didn't even have any water. So, will the Democratic Party stop begging for money and start looking at the people and give the people what they want? That's where we are. I mean, bottom line, that's where we are. And, people are looking at Tallarico now in the Democratic Party. Looks like the perfect candidate in every way. Unfortunately, America has a lot of D- students, and that's why we got in this place where we are right now. Tallarico's a wonderful person and probably a decent vote in Texas. Get out there and vote for Tallarico. But those D- students, they look at him and they think posh. They think it can't be. They've called him a vegan. They've called him all kinds of names already. The last honest man is named Tallarico, and he is in Texas. You may be able to vote for him if you're in Texas. I would go out there and campaign for him, donate some money to him. And I hope he grows some stubble, because right now he's looking a little posh, looking a little bit sketchy. And when the D- student, see, I consider myself a C+ student. When a D- student, when a D- person sees a person like that, they see a plan. They see someone who's going to rip them off. Whereas a C+ student looks at Tallarico and says, wow, he's speaking some truth to me, and hey, hell, it's an opportunity for everybody to do better. That's the fine line between MAGA and ordinary people who want a better life for everybody. It's one grade. It's D- versus C+. And that's where most of the people are in America. You A students out there, God bless you. I used to pass the ball to you in gym class, and it was fun. And I'd watch you wobble around and miss the rim. And it was fun. But that's, A+, A class, A students, wonderful. Academic prep people, wonderful. They do the science work. They do everything for us. I want them to run the show properly. But the problem is, you've outsmarted yourself with private schooling, with magnet schooling, and you've put far too many people in the public system on the D- track. And you get 3 or 4 generations in on D-, and honest to God, it's nothing but hate and anger and resentment for everything that's been done to them. It's one of the things that the Democrats need to come clean with and need to understand. A+ students, they have their place. They're caretakers of society. Do it with some skill. Do it with some style. Don't be so foolish to look down your nose at a D- student. Don't be so foolish. And this is coming from a C+ student who's telling you, I know these D- students. They're a rough crew, but you can win them over. And, I'm just passing the ball to you in gym class, A+ students. Now, I know your skin's white. I know you're wobbling around. I know you're driving around in decent cars and you got a comfortable life, but you got to get off the fucking schneid. And you've really, really, really got to go look at these D- students and frame your arguments in the right way. Don't let the MAGA and don't let the D- student frame you. You frame the D- student. You put your hand out. You put your hand down. You lift them up and you tell them that they're, have issues. You don't name call. You explain to them in the simplest ways. Did you see? I remember President Obama said Bibles and guns. This is not the rhetoric you want around a D- student. And, you can't call them despicable. They're there. And we've made them for 3 and 4 generations now. It's parents who know nothing about parenting. If you're a teacher out there, what I want you to do, if you're teaching a class, I know you're in a classroom, I know you're overwhelmed, but one of the things you have to do, and do it for me, do it for yourself. I want you to get involved, not just with the students, but I want you to reach out to the parents because the parents are in trouble. These D- students, the kids that aren't behaving in your class, the kids that are disrupting your class, if you're writing them off, you're making a big mistake for the future of the A- students. The honor students are going to get flushed with the whole system. That's what happens. Too many D- students. So I want you to go out there and I want you to go through the students to get to the parents. Offer a helping hand. Help them with their homework. Help the parents help with the homework. After 4 generations, we've got a ton of illiteracy in this country. We've got a ton of ignorance in this country. And the only way we're going to save this country is by saving those people and getting them on board. Can't be ignored anymore. I mean, we see what's happening in Maine. They've got an oyster fisherman who's speaking plain English. Whether he turns out to be a Fetterman or not, who knows? But we're just hoping that the educators in this country can step in at all levels and really help the D- student and pull the young people back in the game, get them off their phones and get them back into civics, get them back into their responsibility as citizens. But who knows if it's at all possible. So that's my politics for today. Hope you found it interesting. Hope you found my ideas palatable. See the movie I mentioned? Also, as far as my cancer update, feeling good, losing maybe 200 hairs a day versus 100 hairs a day, but I have a ton of hair to lose, so not so worried just yet. But we're going to be going into our 4th chemo next Wednesday, this coming Wednesday. I'm going golfing tomorrow. I feel great. I finished the deck. I stained the deck yesterday. I mean, physically I'm fine. Doing a lot of body monitoring, paying attention to what I'm doing, eating and everything. So hopefully, I can get through this. I'm feeling pretty good. But anyway, that's it for me. I'm out. Please like and share this podcast, vlog, and wherever you get your information on this. I try to get it out on all the platforms. So if you like and share, you can subscribe. It's usually free to subscribe, and that's always counts. But also, you can on my Substack buy me a cup of coffee and to keep it going for you. Some of this stuff I will make private. But anyway, there you have it. That's my update for, what's the date? May 27th. Thanks for joining me. I'm out. Hey, let's do it. Yeah, I almost forgot. Let's go. All right. That was fun. Hope you liked it.